I think in a bear market, maybe we need distractions. But for me, this is something that, hey, I hope a lot of Hexans don't get wrecked in because of all the crazy price action. We have bridges, we can do trading, but like, does this actually matter? Isn't PulseChain much more exciting? Like, making a move, how do you know you're not making a bad move? How do we know it's going to be supported? I'm a little skeptical of the future of it and currently trading on that network. That's kind of the synthesis of my view. Gifford, you want to just kind of briefly go through what, either criticisms or support or otherwise, and then we'll get Jesse to go through.
Yeah, I'll just kind of repeat myself a little bit from earlier. Just really saying that I see this as an opportunity for myself to learn a lot more about crypto in general and how forks really actually work, and what potentials we could see by looking at the past and see it, how previous forks have gone down, specifically talking about the Ethereum and Ethereum Classic fork. And I'm wondering, I actually have more questions than really opinions because, I've been listening to Jesse for a while. This is the first time we ever met. What's up, Jesse, by the way? But I've gotten a lot from a lot of your streams. And, I was in the Telegram chat with you a little bit. They're way back at the beginning of Liquid Loans. And so I got a lot from you. So really, more than anything, I got a lot of questions. But the biggest thing is, I just want to learn from this scenario. I want to play with the network as safely as possible on the other end. And essentially just wait and see what happens. Like the three things that I think you really need to see for the proof of work network to actually be successful is you obviously have to have adoption, but there also needs to be a security aspect to it and future development, which is kind of my asterisk around that is, we basically have to wait and see. We don't really know how many developers we're going to see supporting that network in the future. And that's just where my question and my ignorance lies.
Jesse, can you put together 8 hours of your live stream today? You've got the best points now. They're on the top of your head. I'm sure you have plenty of energy. Lay it on us.
So I need to warn the community that aping in comes with both risks from a security standpoint, depending on what you do, what wallet addresses you choose to use. Potentially, the replay attacks narrative has, kind of mitigated, but it's a new chain. We haven't physically looked at the code. We assume that it's the same code that Vitalik wrote and we've been running for the past 7 years. Right? But do we really know? I would hope that with thousands of miners that are also, running that code, that social consensus network of just the way mining works, like it would be okay, right? But you have to be careful and you have to understand that there are risks. And there's also risks financially. If there's something brand new that like a large community says, will likely die, and then you get other people who say it could survive, right? So, if you ape in with fresh money, you have the potential for it all to go to zero. You do happen to have free copies over there, though. So this is very similar to PulseChain. All of this is very similar to what PulseChain may look like. At a bare minimum, what's happened with the ETH fork is we now have established HEX at the top. It did a 50-some X in value. Now, that doesn't mean all that can be extracted and sold and brought back out, right? There's a liquidity issue. The same issue exists for every other cryptocurrency in history, including HEX right now. If everyone tried to sell, everyone couldn't get out. If you had bought HEX at the beginning or been involved with the adoption amplifier and stuff, there were periods of time where HEX was extremely cheap, but it was super low liquidity and everyone was scared and thought it was a scam and they didn't, should I put money in? Should I not put money in? And some people took that chance and others didn't. So like you have to weigh that risk for yourself.
But for that one, though, I mean, we kind of knew the network was going to be around. We knew that, the liquidity. We had the OA. That isn't it kind of different with this one?
Well, you still have an OA. You still had liquidity. You had $19 million worth of HEX, just a day and a half ago. Here's what's interesting. We tell people this weird narrative that HEX is only going to get rarer over time, or at least the T shares are going to be harder to obtain over time. And as the liquidity dries up, the supply, the supply you're able to buy is smaller and smaller. But then when it actually happens on a new fork, then people go, oh shit. And then they worry about the liquidity, right? So it's like your own people start talking out of both sides of their mouth sometimes, right?
Why don't you worry about the liquidity?
Of course I do. Right, but there are options, right, for anybody who here's what's happened. Here's the majority of that price run up is not actually fresh money that we don't have like endless thousands of dollars that aped into HEX. Here's what happened. People had their stuff copied over. You had stable coins and shit coins and everything else that people may have had in their wallet, and people swapped out of them and into HEX. Now, this is the exact same narrative that we tell people they can do when PulseChain goes live. People ask, how can I participate in PulseChain? Well, the only thing you have to do is hold some ERC20s in your wallet. Those will get copied over, and you'll be able to swap them into HEX or PulseX or whatever you want when the chain goes live. That's exactly what just happened last night and into today. People had copies of something, and they decided for themselves that they would rather put those free airdrop copies into HEX than anything else. So the act of swapping out of stablecoins that happen to be like headed towards zero because markets were dumping them. One single dollar will get you 26,000 USDC right now. It's stupid, right? But the price of these stables was going down. The only logical thing to do was dump out of them. You got them for free anyway. They were copied over. They're not worth anything. You can't redeem them. So you swap them for HEX. So then what happens is the perceived price of HEX versus a USDC now goes up. And as everyone starts doing that, now before you know it, within a matter of hours, wow, HEX just did a 50x because everybody dumped their shitcoins for it. Now, that's not a bad thing. That's what you would expect would happen, and what we actually think will happen on PulseChain as well. Now, some people chose to bring fresh money in, right? Not everybody, but some people said, you know what? This is interesting. This thing, HEX, is immutable. It could continue to thrive as long as we have liquidity down the road. Some people speculated and decided to bring some fresh money in, and then do the same thing, buy HEX. So we do have people running around the community telling people not to buy HEX, but people are still choosing to buy HEX on this chain, right? It's like, we're HEX. Yeah. Are we shouting from the rooftop and telling people not to buy HEX?
Well, I'll tell you the analogy that I used a few minutes ago too was, with the free claims. Everyone says, oh, it's free claim, free money, why not claim it? And to that, I would say, well, now you have consciousness in it. Now, maybe one of your favorite streamers starts talking about it. Now you want to trade it. Maybe you don't dump it. All the assumptions on the free claim, free money is you get it and dump it immediately and never come back, which I don't think a lot of people do that. I think they get more involved, and then before you know it, they delete Telegram, blah, 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 all that bad stuff.
But what you've seen happen is people swap out of their coins into HEX, and like they're literally holding HEX. I think in that whole chart for the past 2 days, there was like one guy who dumped and got like $5,000 out, but nobody else is dumping. Other people are choosing to stake. There's people creating stakes just for the hell of it because they got it for free or they threw $5 into it. And it's like, oh, wow, I guess I'll just create a stake and just wait and see. Now, could the chain go to zero? Sure. Some things that'll make the chain kind of die is going to be lack of Oracle support and a lack of a natively launched stablecoin or a bridged-in stablecoin. Then, because everything just remains out of whack up until you have a stablecoin on that chain. So, like, if in a week or two there's no buzz about USDC coming in or something, then it's like, well, what is it like? What's this chain? What's the life of this chain going to look like? Now, on their website, They have a list of protocols that are natively launching or have natively launched. And it's like 20 or 30 protocols. That list is growing one by one. There's protocols. Now, most of them are crap, right? But there's actually some from our own ecosystem, Hedron, Maximus. They're all like, those are over there. HEX already natively works. There's a couple DeFi protocols. There's something that looks like an NFT platform thing in there that's natively launching. And when you look on like Dex Tools or Dex Screener, maybe, oh no, it's no, it's the Blockchain Explorer for this chain. I forget.
Okay, Link.
Yeah, okay, Link. You can actually see that there's like 250 fresh ERC20s, new ticker symbols. Where did that come from? And like, while those protocols may not be public, and while 99% of them probably, some of them won't even make it to market, some of them will, launch and die. It's like, wow, but there's still 250 unique ticker symbols. People are attempting to do things over there. They could be shit coins. They could be DeFi protocols. Unless you like dig deep and look for those contracts and click around, it's really hard to decipher until those teams go public. But I just find that interesting. All these new ticker symbols that just kind of appeared in these contracts on there. It's this whole thing is completely speculative, but it's interesting, and people are welcome to sit back and do nothing and watch. People with a little more, with a little, who are willing to do it, take on the risk, are connecting their wallet in. Yeah, well, people are connecting their wallet in and seeing, oh, well, I can dump my USDC and get some HEX and throw it into a stake, and then just walk away and see what happens. And every few days, look at the chart or whatever. Like, there's no harm in that as long as you understand the risks. Like, you could create that stake and then potentially never get that value out because the chain has gone to zero. Or you could create that stake and potentially the chain has some sort of support in the future, and that stake could be worth something more in the future. Like, there's no way to know. Or you could just be that guy who doesn't create a stake. You go over there, swap all your stable coins for ETH POW, for whatever value you can get out of them. Send those to an exchange and extract value from the chain. I would, if you have copied HEX, I actually wouldn't advise doing that. Like, just stake it and see what happens. But if you have some random stuff and you don't want to buy HEX with it, dump it for ETH POW and extract the value if that makes you feel better, right? Get a couple bucks out of it, or $100 or whatever you can get out of your dump stable coins. Like, there's no harm in that as long as you are careful.
Just for the people who are, collecting HEX and stuff through this, isn't that more of a reason why the OA wouldn't give the tip of the hat to this, even if POW becomes popular in the future, because people have been collecting HEX that, didn't get it from the AA. They didn't get it. They got it in they maybe have millions or billions of HEX now because they got it super cheap through the arbitrage and stuff like that.
Well, not billions. I think,
but like, they got a lot
probably
more
the
than
biggest
system would intend.
The biggest purchase that I think I saw probably was, I don't know, maybe probably 50 to 60 million HEX. Okay, and that guy probably paid a couple or a few $1,000s to be able to scoop that up. Now, could you get that same value on ETH chain? Could you pay a few $1,000 and get that many HEX? No, but this isn't the ETH chain. This is a different chain that has far less value. So spending that guy, his risk tolerance was he's willing to lose $3,000, and he got 60 million HEX or whatever, right? Yeah. Some people, like Matty Allen, threw $4 in, okay, and he got like 500 some HEX. Like, other people didn't throw any money in. We can't go around like waving a stick at anybody who chooses to spend their money how they want to choose it.
I'm just thinking about the system. You know, we know the OA has a lot of control and kind of wants to see the vision, you know, is their best friend as hexagons. You think that would affect, you know, people getting crazy amounts for all this stuff, and OA looks at, okay, here's time to make a decision. Am I going to put up any buy or sell walls? Am I going to, you know, support it? You know, whatever move that may be. And they say, oh, wow, this is a shit show. Like, look at all these, you know, people who just took advantage of it and didn't, you know, become whales in the traditional way, or you know, all that nuance that goes with it. Do you think that helps or hurts for Hex being successful on POW, even if it survives as a chain?
No, because you're going to see this very similar opportunities on PulseChain. He's even said that. He has tweeted and said on YouTube, when PulseChain goes live, you will see if you like a certain coin, you have an opportunity to become a whale in that protocol. He said that over and over and over. If you like Sheeb, well, now's your chance to become a Sheeb whale on the PulseChain. If you like this, you could do the same thing. If you like
about Hex, his product, though, his product, not, you know, another ETH fork.
Okay, but what's the problem?
Well,
there's literally
like if the OA wants to craft the system, if the OA wants to craft the system in the image that they think that's best for puppet minnows in the future, are they going to support every ETH fork coming out and new wells?
It's certainly not in his interest to kill his own protocol and make the chart look like doggy doo-doo and make it the worst performing asset on the chain. It actually is good attention. It's good attention to Hex, right? That anybody who's curious about the ETH fork, if they look on CoinMarketCap, or if they look at the better sites like Dex Tools, Dex Screener, PooCoin, or any of these other ones that actually show like better charts and then list all the different protocols and stuff. When they go and they're like, oh, what's ETH W? And they type ETH W, and underneath it, it's like Hex, best performing asset on the ETH W. And then they're like, what the hell? Look at this coin here that did a 50x when everything else is kind of just going sideways or down 5% or up 5%. How come Hex is, what is Hex? Next thing they do is they go straight to Google and they type the word Hex and they click on a Richard Hart thing. Now they're in our ecosystem. Now they can learn about PulseChain, and then what you would expect that they would imagine is, wow, a fork just happened and Hex did a 50x. Now when PulseChain happens, those same people say, wow, next time a fork happens, which Richard Hart is doing, maybe I should ape into Hex. And it actually makes Hex do a 50x on PulseChain because of that belief. And you have new users who love the asset and they buy it and stake it and do everything they're supposed to with it. Like, how is this a bad thing? It's literally a marketing thing to have Hex at the top of that chart.
I could see that, you know, I could also see the tweets about, hey, of course, you know, if ETH POW doesn't go well in the next few weeks, of course, Hex is the one that's pumping and dumping on the scam chain. You know, that sort of thing. I could see that side of it too. But short term, yeah, marketing.
You know,
you see Hex going up.
Another way you could look at it too is when you're talking about the same kind of protocol, the same immutable code on different chains, they're almost like multi-dimensional like areas, right? They're almost like a multiverse in the sense that if you have an OA or a benevolent character, right, that is looking out for the price action, that OA will act separately from each dimension that they're in, right? So when the new chain happened and all that Hex got copied over onto the proof of work chain, right? You've basically duplicated that character. You've duplicated that benevolent actor. So now that benevolent actor is probably going to be looking out for that Hex protocol in that universe, and they don't really talk to each other, right? So you may see a scenario where it does nothing, absolutely nothing, like basically just is dormant in that universe, or you might see a scenario where it's fighting for those Hex users on that protocol independently of what's going on in the other universes or on the other chains.
Yeah. Imagine being a token founder, which I happen to be one. I'm proud to stand with the Power City team, right? Imagine if you had a protocol and a fork happened and your protocol now existed on another chain. Like, the best thing to do is either do nothing at all, say nothing at all about it, Or if it happens to be doing well, either still maybe do nothing. But the last thing you would do is FUD your own protocol over there, because it gives too strong of a narrative for people to say, oh, look at how easily it failed after a fork. It's also going to fail on your pulse chain. Ha ha ha. Okay. We don't want people to feel that way. We want people to see some level of success, some level of pumpage, right? Some level of excitement. Doesn't mean that it needs economic energy even at all. Like I said, people could have swapped out of their free copies. Okay. But then what it does is it puts in those people's mind, oh, wow, this thing performs well in the event of a fork. Maybe when PulseChain launches, it'll also do well. And now you just got them hooked into your ecosystem.
I certainly hope so. I mean, I hope, 6 months, a year from now, if POW is still around and not going crazy in some way, that Hexicans do benefit from the opportunities they have here, or if they don't participate at all, then they still, you still got coin. If you got stakes, they're copied over. It doesn't mean you have to trade. It just means, you don't have to make any moves immediately. I guess what I'm trying to say, but hopefully more people make more money than lose this year. Hopefully.
Right.
Very good. Thank you, Jesse. Great nuance. Got a question here. When providing liquidity, I did half X, half Hedron on POW. Right when I finished, they said LP was 99.5 Hedron. Anything I do for more parity?
We don't know what it said before you did it, though. Oh, 99.5% Hedron?
Mm-hmm. I imagine.
You know who else who also did a large liquidity providing on the proof of work network is the Hedron deployer address. It went ahead and deployed 5 million hex and what was it? 32 billion Hedron, something like that. I'm just kind of pulling. I'm gonna have to pull up.
Hedron deployer address provided liquidity for pairs on POW. That's what you're saying?
Yes, I've got it right here. Hold on. Let me.
It's kind of imaginary liquidity.
Yeah.
Like,
true.
The only liquidity that's actually exitable through
50 billion
matters the most would be actually ETH coin itself. Right. So Alex did that with free money, like free coins, right? He's got that hex in there. He's got that Hedron, and now you can swap between the two. But that doesn't necessarily mean like that's extractable value or anything from the chain. You would have to have ETH coins, which likely to get a good, any sum of them, you would have to either, well, the liquidity is so thin, you would just have to buy some fresh off an exchange and bring it in and then pair Hedron or Hex to it. Right now, you actually have some real, like, tangible liquidity on the chain.
Yeah, well, you got to have liquidity in order to do any trades in the first place, right? So going in and creating liquidity pools is making that happen. I noticed right away that there was pretty much zero liquidity on Icosa on proof of work, right? And so you couldn't even trade it, right? So it's just it's another one of those examples of if you're a benevolent actor in a different universe, you may do certain things to help out that universe, right? That you're not going to just completely ignore it, knowing that you may have potential people that want to be interacting with your protocol, right? Especially when you see, somebody like Alex who got that front end up and running incredibly quick, and you now can use, your Icosa, your Hedron, and your native hex stakes on his front end. I mean, that's pretty awesome. I watched Dipcatcher set that up live on his live stream, and he got that set up first. I think he was the first one to do it.
You want to hear something mind-blowing?
Yeah.
It appears that some sacrifice addresses may have had a bunch of ETH and USDC and stuff, right? Those copy over. They're free coins. Mm-hmm. If Richard so chose, he could take his free copies, millions of, ETH or millions of mega millions of copied over USDC, and just add liquidity over there, and it doesn't cost him a dime. Alternatively, he could do nothing at all. Or he could take his free copies and say, F y'all, and then like swap it for ETH, or it's already ETH, and then send it to an exchange and cash out and buy some Louis Vuitton, right? But like, what is like? He's doing nothing at the moment. It's really interesting. If he makes some sort of move, it'll really get the buzz going in the community. People will start going nuts, like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
look what the OA just did."
Yeah, I don't think we'd see that. I don't think we'd see it anytime soon. I think it literally he'd have to, he'd have to see some other major players tip the hat. Okay, we're going to participate and things like that before he'd be like, all right, we're doing this. But that would be crazy.
But that's a way for him to also allow his community to extract value, right? If he wanted, hey guys, like, I'm going to be nice to y'all. I'm going to use my free copies and put them up as liquidity. Do what you want to do with HEX over there, right? And then as a community, we can either buy and sell it and there's thick liquidity, or we can all choose, well, we're all just gonna dump and abandon that chain, but at least we leave there with some ETH, which we can circle back in and around into the ETH, the HEX on the ETH chain, right? And Richard could literally do that for free for us and help his own ecosystem.
What do you think the pairings would be? Like, if he were to create a liquidity pairings over on that network, what would that be? HEX with what?
It would just be HEX, which he has a shitload of, right? And ETH because his ETH that he holds also copies over. You have to know that, and it copies over as ETH.
Absolutely.
So he just needs to add to that pool that's only got like 16,000 worth in there. Mm-hmm. You just got to add to that, and next thing you know, there's like millions in there, right?
The interesting thing is going to be is going to see, when you look back at the other forks that happened. I brought up Ethereum Classic, and you could also look at all the forks from Bitcoin as well. But in particular with Ethereum Classic, like, you see this example of a community trying to hold it together, right? Like with like duct tape and hopes and dreams. And you see it have value, but it just kind of bleeds over time, right? It just kind of bleeds out. Like, if I were to really be pessimistic, I would say, we could see something similar where it doesn't matter what the liquidity is that gets put up, because if it's paired with that ETH that's just bleeding out over time, that's going to be nothing but like a reverse Hart's law effect, right?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't think anybody here has any hopium or expectations of anything Richard might or might not do. Sure. And actually, as a community, there's other ways for liquidity providing too, with Uniswap v3 and stuff like that. There's all sorts of things that I think at least a handful of people in the X community will do.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what is done just in general. Like, it just feels like exciting times. No matter how you look at it, like, we're going to see a lot of things get played out that we didn't think we would see until something like PulseChain launching.
Right.
Not a bad test run as far as seeing what happens during a fork. So this could prepare projects for the upcoming PulseChain fork as well. The projects that are launching, and Richard, he might have learned something through this process too. Oh, I'm going to do this to make sure things go smoother. That's a positive. Speaking of the how to extract value, can maybe Jesse do it, since you've probably been said it 50 times today. How do you, like, if you're going to trade HEX, going to trade ETH, whatever, how do you do that? And then is there a bridge or some way to extract value? Maybe you make some money, whatever it is you want to get out. Maybe sell everything and try to get out. How would you do that?
So let's pretend you have an ERC20 copied over. We don't even have, it could be anything. It could be SHIB. Okay. You're simply going to go onto the chain. You're going to go to Kyber Swap, which is an aggregator. And you would swap that into ETH. Okay, so the native gas coin of the chain. From there, you would send it to an exchange that carries that ETH, which there's a number of: Kraken, MECX, Binance.
Is FTX doing it yet, or no?
I think I'm not sure, but I've heard Binance issued a statement saying they were going to carry it too. Right. So then you would just simply send it to the exchange and swap it for something else, like a stable coin or whatever. It's that simple.
Gotcha.
So swap your free copy for ETH, because those liquidity pools still exist over there. Now you have very real value that you just got for free. You send that to an exchange, and you swap it for a stable coin.
So the exchange, the centralized exchange, is basically they provide the bridge for you to get that back into whatever you need
Well,
it to
you just
be.
do a send to the address. On the exchange, you click deposit, and then you type the name of the coin that you want to deposit. So you type ETH POW, and then you click it, and you copy that address that you're supposed to send to. Now you go back to your MetaMask and click send, and you just send it all to the exchange. Within a minute or so, it shows up on the exchange, and then you go to the trading side of that platform, and you swap. You'll see all the order books and pairs and everything, and you swap that ETH POW probably for USDT, because all the primary pairings on the exchanges are USDT paired to ETH POW. So just swap into USDT, and then from there you can swap into whatever you want.
Gotcha.
It has a lot of steps. And that Kyber site, I don't know what your opinion is, but that is wonky.
It is.
At best.
It is, but it works, and it aggregates Uniswap and Curve. So
That's right.
that's
Mm.
cool.
That's right.